when someone is attacked, if they don't give up and they fight back, most of the time predators don't want to get hurt. So if someone attacks you, so when we talk about tunnel vision, we talk about when you get under stress, a lot of times your focus really narrows, and the science behind that is your blood, the heart starts to pump and the adrenaline dumps, and a lot of the blood vessels in your brain and your eyes, everything constricts, and you can really get, and I ask this question in classes, have you ever had any boxing, MMA, have you ever done any striking? And most people go no. And I said, well, have you ever hammered a nail? And they go, yes, most everyone has. And it's like, well, if you can hammer a nail with a hammer, you can defend yourself with a...
I want you to imagine your phone buzzes and your stomach drops. Locked down at your kid's school. In the next 60 seconds, every parent has the same realization. Most people are not prepared for the moment they pray never comes. That's exactly why today's conversation matters. I'm joined by Philip Toppino, founder of WAFD, a one-of-a-kind family safety and scenario training experience just outside Orlando, Florida. Lisa and I trained there alongside our good friend Davin, and I can tell you this is not tactical bravado or fear-based hype. This is real world awareness, non-lethal preparedness, and learning how to think clearly when adrenaline hits. We talk about how predators choose targets, why people freeze under stress, and how to become a hard target without living in fear, and why something as simple as a flashlight can change the outcome of a situation. If you're a parent, a traveler, or someone who wants to protect the people they love, this episode will absolutely change how you see the world. Let's get into it. Well, brother, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show, and now I get a chance to grill you with some questions, which is kind of fun. But just so my audience can get a sense of who you are, if you were to describe exactly what you do and why it's so important to the world, what is it? What do you do, and why is it so important to everyone out there?
Family safety. Everyone wants safety. So thank you so much for having me on. It was such an awesome experience to host you and the missus, and also Davin. And we want safety for everyone. And I created a learning experience in our 20-acre facility outside of Orlando, Florida. And it basically is a place where you can come and learn collectively with everyone you care about safety concepts. And then it can make you safer in your day-to-day life with or without a firearm.
Well, he mentioned that Lisa and I got a chance to go out there along with Davin, and guys, he's being very, very humble and modest. This is like, imagine one of the coolest playgrounds for adults and families, of course, but where you literally get a chance to go learn some real world experience, and it's awesome. I mean, we are talking firearms, we are talking, I think, MMA, we are talking just, and I'll let Philip tell you more, but I want to paint the picture as best you can. It's freaking cool. Why did you create it, brother? Why were you like, you know what? This is why family safety is so important to me. And I say that because I know it's important, and I have a family. Of course, I worry about it, and I'll give us an example in a bit. But why was it so important to you, Philip? Why were you like, yep, this is my thing, man. This is my legacy play.
I've been a husband now for 25 years and a father to two awesome kids, my son 20 and my daughter 17. And I wanted them to be safe when I wasn't with them. And I had my first exit in real estate a while ago, and I was able to travel the country. And I wanted to be my own first responder. I wanted to be, it's the father and you know, following a good household and Christian. And it's my job to keep the family safe. And so I wanted to learn a skill at arms, so that I could protect my family. And I wanted safety for them when I wasn't with them. And as I traveled the country, I learned so many neat things training with all these ex-military, law enforcement, subject matter experts. But I could not find a place that was family friendly, less tactical. And so I created my own experience because I couldn't find what I wanted. And if the bathrooms are not clean, my wife's not coming.
And by the way, they are spectacular. And I'd never say that about a bathroom. Like, legit, guys, you could eat off the floor. Not saying you would, but you could. Okay, well, that's cool. But again, so there wasn't like an incident where you're like, holy cow, this happened and I just have to. Because you took your most private area, your home where you live, and you built this incredible facility. Guys, I think there's 2 gun ranges on there. Then imagine a helicopter pad where you literally can land a helicopter. Then imagine an MMA gym or studio. Then imagine, I mean, I can't, it's very difficult to describe because I didn't get to even see all the acreage. You didn't just go like, yeah, man, I'm interested in, my family safety. I'm going to build the coolest freaking thing that's possible. And yes, you're learning this stuff, but dude, you're having a great time while doing it.
Yes, it's one of those things that it really is build it and they will come. It's a download from up above, that it's something that an experience. Again, I don't want to be here if something were to happen to my kids, and we have a really fun experience. And that is something that we have fine-tuned over the last 15 years. And when I talk about scenario safety teaches everyone the skills necessary to handle real-life encounters, and it empowers you and your loved ones to deal with potentially harmful everyday situations that can happen. So it's something that we throttle to your skill set, and it's something that, again, you and Lisa did a fantastic job, and it's something that I don't do anything half-ass, pardon the French. And so I wanted to do everything at the maximum potential. So with your valuable time, that's what we're built for. We're built for just people that want to prioritize, and their time is valuable. And that's what this property is transformed into doing. With 9 different stations, we can separate everyone via skill set, and we just do things at the absolute highest level that is really not done anywhere else. So it's hard to convey, and I love to hear you pulling up in the photos and just the experience, and then the stuff that we did, and that's just the start.
Yeah, I think part of what, and today is a great example. Literally, right in between having this and being on a meeting, I looked down at my phone and there was like 54 WhatsApp messages, which, I had checked it just prior. So in a span of like 10 minutes, 54 messages happened. And here's what happened. There was a lockdown at my son's school today. Now, it ended up not being it was a false alarm, if you will. It was not an intruder. But I guess the point is, and I think this will reinforce for everybody, you should have seen, and it's all men in this particular group chat, just the amount of boom, 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 boom. I mean, it was just concerns to freaking out to all these feelings. And I thought, if everybody, knew what the safety of the school was, which is pretty incredible in what they do, but if they also knew that their kids had some awareness to it, that there was some training behind it, I don't think there would have been so many visceral just freakouts is what I'm going to call it. And again, this isn't a judgment on these guys. It was just like I was watching it going, all right, this reinforced everything Philip talked about at WAFD. Like, yeah, man, this is people's like number one thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts when you hear these things? Because I know you get people coming through your doors that have gone through the worst of the worst. One of your own instructors talked about literally having somebody break into their home and having a gun at her head. So what are your thoughts when you hear stuff like that?
Scenario safety. We are doing and applying for a school teacher appropriation in the legislative session this year in the Florida House and the Senate. And we have a learning experience that we think can bring a lot of value to teachers, because school safety, we protect everything in this country with a firearm. And school safety, it's everyone wants safety. And when they talk about making schools safer, the first thing they rush to is more law enforcement and basically kind of locking it down. And I feel that in a rising tide, all ships rise. And I want to bring value to teachers, and I want to get them more engaged and more empowered with the safety of their classroom, because the thing is, if something bad were to happen, unfortunately, predators are going to pick the path of least resistance. And so schools, again, we protect everything of value in this country with a firearm. And a lot of schools, whether you're left-leaning or right-leaning, we want to give the teachers some experience in a non-lethal capacity, teaching them how to think and react faster under stress. And that's what scenario does, scenario training does. And I'll talk to you about scenario safety in a moment and kind of, explain what a scenario is. But that is our big thing, that we have a lot of value that we've experienced in a learning process that is not tactical. It's not military. It's not law enforcement. It's basically showing safety concepts, what we can learn from nature, and then learning how to apply those concepts to be what we call a hard target. And everyone, especially that are a good athlete or have played sports, knows that it's a completely different thing when you're practicing than if you're in a game. And that's what we want to practice for, something you never want to fail at when that day happens and the adrenaline's running and it might be a false alarm. And most of the time it is a false alarm. But if it's something that is real with some experience, similar to the Mr. Kobe Bryant, the more he practices when he's in a game situation, he's not nervous about it because he knows what to do. So unfortunately, we want to be that resource to all the people on your chat, on your WhatsApp chat. We want to be that resource that they can bring their family to us and show safety concepts. So if something does happen, the kids have some experience to learn and think faster under stress and problem solve on what's more likely to happen in our everyday life, which is nothing. But if something does happen, now they have some context as to what they could do and what they're capable of. And that's why we exist, to bring value to everyday families and just have a real fun experience.
Yeah, one of the things you said in a non-lethal way, one of the things that I want to make sure to get across, and what was felt there, yes, the staff you had, guys, when I say CIA, Navy SEALs, MMA fighters, I mean, I literally list an acronym of an agency, and they are a part of Philip's team. It's incredible. But here's what I didn't feel, and I think this is important, because, like you said, whether you're pro gun or you're against it, you're still welcome at WAFD in a way that, yes, we're going to talk about gun safety. Yes, you have a chance to learn about it. But the one thing I saw throughout, Philip, is it wasn't like, hey, reach for a gun. That's what you're going to do. In fact, and maybe you can talk about the flashlight. I thought that was really, really unique. I thought that was really smart. That, guess what? Here's something that every single person can keep in their pocket at all times, and to make you a harder target. Again, I'll let you explain it, but I never thought about this flashlight in the way that you taught, or in the way that your staff taught. And I thought, you know what? I want my audience to know about it, which is a huge part of why I wanted you on the show. Talk to me about that, the non-lethal thing, about having the flashlight, why that's so important. I mean, again, I want to take away, but I just want to articulate to the audience, it's not all about pulling out a gun. It's, in fact, that's probably the last thing that really Philip and his team were trying to teach, is like, that is the very, very, very last resort. Let's be a hard target. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So let's start first with what is scenario safety. Okay. So, and you just referenced a perfect example of the school. Think of it like this. Every day, every one of us enter and exit scenarios, and you cannot always take force multipliers with you, which is why the flashlight's so important. Okay. Now, your son kids going to school, they can carry a flashlight with them. If you can carry it on an airplane, you can carry it anywhere. And there's also a belt that's got coins in it with change that can be used as more of a distance tool. So back up to scenarios. We all enter and exit scenarios every day. Like the kids went to school today. That's a scenario. That's a potential scenario. We go to grocery stores. We go to gas stations. We walk our dog. We go to restaurants. We travel the world. A lot of your viewers are jumping on planes, and whether it's commercial or private, they travel to other countries. These are all scenarios, but they're a simple part of our everyday lives. Most of us enter and exit these scenarios quite oblivious to our surroundings. And with the advent of cell phones, many are completely distracted. Now, generally, it's not a problem, and most of the time it's quite civilized. We focus on the moments when it's not. What happens when a stranger starts to approach you? What happens when someone starts to follow you? What happens when someone becomes aggressive? Or there's a false alarm at the school? And now your scenario becomes a situation. So the question I always ask everyone is, what would you do and what should you do? And so that's what we do at WAFD is we have this multi-million-dollar facility, and we break you up into skill set via different stations, and we show you things like flashlights and things that you can carry with you everywhere all the time. And we teach you how to deal. We're your guide, basically, to deal on how to deal with these very real encounters, whether it's a stranger in a transitional space in a parking lot, or whether you have a situation at school. It's teaching you what and how to problem solve, not what to do, if that makes sense, so that everyone can be empowered and manage these very difficult situations.
Yeah, and I guess as I'm listening to it, because again, I had the advantage of going through the at least for a couple of days, I had the advantage of going through some of the stations. I didn't get to go to all of them, guys, so we're clear. I think it would take a couple trainings to get through all of the stations because they're very thorough and maybe meticulous. I don't know. You're very thorough in the training, as in it's not like, okay, let's go again, do this MMA move. It's like, no, let's work on whether it's a jujitsu thing or they wouldn't even call it that. It would be like, here's how to distance yourself. Here's how, and I guess what I'm saying is I want people to kind of try to put themselves in the scenarios that you're talking about, because when you're in it, you're doing something really cool that you normally don't get a chance to do, right? Like I don't get to, do these scenarios because, heavens, I don't want to, I guess, first off, but then you learn something to get prepared. I guess my question would be, if you're sitting here right now and you're saying, gosh, this is the biggest thing I want everyone to hear. Whether you go to WAFT, which I strongly urge my listeners to go check it out. It's an amazing place. But if you don't, here's something you can do today to increase your safety, to increase your awareness as we enter into these different scenarios.
Yes. Let's talk about the flashlight just for a moment. But yes, the one big thing for everyone to take away, remember when you were growing up and you went to cross the street and you're walking with your parents and your mother would say, hey, stop, look both ways before you cross the street. You're not just going to blindly walk across the street. You're going to look both ways. And so when you're going in any transitional space, the big thing for your listeners is that pay attention and look for things that are unusual. And it's oversimplistic, but when you see something unusual, give it more attention. And otherwise, live your life, your normal, average day-to-day life. Like we talked about, nothing is going to happen a majority of the time. So what we've done is we've taken a really fun skill, a really fun hobby. This could be your next family trip to make it fun and team build and learn collectively with your kids and give them some experience. Because what I talk about is a lot of people have never been in bad situations. Unfortunately, 70% of the people that do visit us have already had a situation happen and they're reactive. I want people to be proactive, and that's why WAFT exists, because it's something that you can come and learn fun safety concepts with your kids on what's more likely to happen, which is nothing. And it's all built around a flashlight. So I'll dive into that a little bit if you want.
Yeah, please, because you know what I found fascinating for myself? Again, I'm a big guy, as most people know. Like, I'm a big guy. And so you would think, well, you don't get challenged with this. Oh, trust me, I've been mugged in Warsaw. Like, I definitely got, mugged in Mexico. Like, I put myself in bad scenarios. And I'm the one, I will take full responsibility for that. But I think what I found really interesting, Philip, is finding your voice and really having that to go from, you don't want to go from 0 to 10 straight away, right? You want to kind of deflect as best you can. But when it's time to really ramp up, like I'm doing now, it's time to do that. And yet I noticed the first couple of times that we went through the scenario that our nature was not to do that. It was like, go ahead, back up. Well, guess what? When it's really happening, you need to be able to find your voice. So yeah, man, I'm trying to put my audience in the picture where they're going through this and say, what would you do in that scenario? So yeah, maybe you can talk about the flashlight and then finding your voice, because I found that to be a really interesting dynamic as I was watching everybody kind of ratchet up their voice as each scenario started to happen. They're like, oh, this could really happen. And I want to make sure I'm prepared.
Well, something else that you alluded to earlier is that we have subject matter experts at each station. So it's not just Philip. You see the movie Batman, and it's like you can't stop an idea, you can stop a person. So it's not just Philip or my background. We have a team that collectively comes together to learn you, and then we throttle to your skill set. So it's something that at 9 different stations, you don't put everyone into one class. You can break them up via what their skill set is or what they want to learn. And then we can keep families together, or we can break up the kids and they're learning more firearm safety while dad's over learning more about picking up where he left off with firearms, or mom can be over learning more about firearm safety and just having a firearm in the house. And we do 13 things very well. So you alluded to that earlier. We can do any one of those 13 things, from anti-carjacking to rifle to anything from flashlight safety, right? Situational combatives, flashlight safety. And each one of those events can be a 4-day class. So you and Lisa experienced 2 blocks, which is day 1 we did before lunch, and we did a 3.5-hour block. That one block could have been 4 days, just that one block. So imagine, we typically, I would say, it takes about 3 to 4 different visits over 2 days to really get a good overall. And then, of course, you and Lisa came do our flagship class. What a way to start things off, our large group scenario class. So, but that kind of closes the chapter on that's what makes us different, is the 3-to-1 student to instructor ratio, the subject matter experts at each station. So you're not learning from one guy. It takes a village. And then let's dive into some flashlights. So flashlights.
Yeah. Go ahead, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. With the proper instruction, people always ask me, what can a little flashlight do? And we're not talking about a Home Depot flashlight. We're talking about a specially designed flashlight that we came up with 3 years ago. It was the best on the market when it came out, and we have a new one coming out in April, which will again be the best on the market. And they asked, what can a little flashlight do? And with the proper instruction, it can do more than you could ever imagine. Well, and you think about this, it's small, it's inconspicuous, it's multi-purpose, right? And it could possibly save your life by magnifying your voice, being a tool, and learning how to interrupt the way someone thinks by doing something they don't expect. And we don't talk about good people or bad people. We just talk about predators. And you cannot legislate away violence. Violence is always going to be here, no matter what country you live in. And unfortunately, in other countries and a lot of places where people like to travel, violence is very prevalent. And so a flashlight is something that can go with you everywhere. Okay. And we use it to magnify and project our voice, which makes a statement that strangers, potential predators, should stay away. And we have a tool. And if we have one tool, we might have another tool. So that is, in nature, the goal is to startle and intimidate predators. And typically that will make them reconsider potentially engaging or attacking someone. And that's what we want. That we want to basically take that potential predator and we want them to deflect and go to someone else. We can teach you how to fight, but we want to teach you more the legality of to see it coming, disengage, think, because if it's real, the adrenaline hits and you don't know how you're going to think or react under stress. And you might get tunnel vision. Lisa had that a little bit where she focused a little too much on one. And by you watching her, by Davin watching her, all of a sudden it's like, wow, you're learning collectively. And when you train with somebody that you care about, number one, you're the coolest person on property when you're with your family. And that's the best thing about our experience is teaching everyday objects, again, like a flashlight, and just giving you some experience. So we don't want our kids to be mugged. We want to give them some pre-fight indicators and some experience so that if they're traveling by themselves, they're at a gas station. My daughter started driving last year and I gave her some training, and that's what I wanted. That's why we created this, for families and for awesome people, that their time is valuable, and then to spare no expense, to really with your valuable time provide the best possible experience with a low student to instructor ratio, and just learning everyday tools like a flashlight. And then from there, if you want to learn more, we can, but we first start with what's more likely to happen.
Yeah, and as you're talking, again, I'm right back in that room where we were in a scenario, and what he's talking about with Lisa is she was very clear on being a hard target, as Philip mentioned earlier, which I'll have him describe a bit more, to the first intruder, or the I guess the one that she could see, but very easily behind her, she literally lost all focus and was solely focused on this being a hard target to this one person. And I think the self-awareness was what, as I was sitting there observing, scared the shit out of me. I have to be honest, that I was like, wow, that would be frightening, that she literally didn't see this happening. What I think about is that study where they're showing the people passing the basketball and the gorilla walks through. That's exactly what it felt like. My wife didn't see the gorilla at all, and they were within inches of her. And I guess what I really learned from that, Philip, was the self-awareness, and maybe it's some of the naivety that of the way we walk through the world, where if you just ratchet up just a little bit to say, you know what, be aware of your surroundings a little bit, make sure that there's no one behind you, and put yourself in a better position. So I hope that makes sense to my audience. But the hard target, I found that really interesting because the flashlight made that so evident. Like, these are flashing lights now. These are like, get away from me when it comes time, or at least illuminate to them like, hey, I'm aware of that you're here. You're not fooling anybody. Can you just maybe elaborate a bit more on what the hard target looks like and how every day we could do that?
Sure. So a lot of times adrenaline affects the body very differently. People can have visual and audio exclusion. So when we talk about tunnel vision, we talk about when you get under stress, a lot of times your focus really narrows. And the science behind that is your heart starts to pump and the adrenaline dumps. And a lot of the blood vessels in your brain and your eyes, everything constricts. And you can really get tunnel vision. And it takes training to learn how to inoculate yourself to stress so you can back up your field of view and you can start taking in more. Because a lot of times nowadays we talk about, again, predators. You think about in nature, predators are not one single attack. A lot of times it's pack hunting. So what we like to introduce to people is the concept of +1. The fact that just because someone's approaching you, they might be a decoy. They might be someone who is getting your attention. And we talk about the knockout game, which is something that's happening now where gangs and what have you, they're following you out of a bank, they're following you out of places, and someone comes and approaches you, they get your attention, and then you're attacked or assaulted from the side or from behind. And you see this a lot at gas stations, which are very popular transitional spaces. So what we try to do is we try to start first what's more likely to happen, and then we start to inoculate, and we start to make it a little more difficult. And when Lisa really felt that stress, she really focused on it. And it can only just, as you know, it takes a couple seconds for someone to not realize that someone can come up behind them. And so that's something that you learned by watching your wife. And you'll never forget it, because even though it's like the retention when you train with somebody that you care about goes up 600 to 800%. So all those numbers guys out there, imagine you can sit there and watch safety videos. And this is something on social media now. It's very prevalent. You have these people that have 2.8 million followers, and you can go on YouTube and you can research and look up situations that have happened. And you're thinking to yourself, man, that'll never happen to me. I wouldn't do that. Well, until you're put in that situation or something similar to it, and your adrenaline is running, you don't know how you're going to react. You have no clue. Zero. You can think, but you think you might act a certain way, but as you now have experienced, is completely different. And those guys out there that are above average, like yourself and myself, a lot of times we're not approached, but that also doesn't give us a lot of experience. We're not as sensitive, if you will. We're not worried about someone abducting us and throwing us into a car and kidnapping us. But the same concepts still apply. And so that is the thing where potentially if I can back up and we see someone get robbed or you see someone get mugged, if we can back up 30 seconds before that, or maybe 5 minutes or a minute before that, and we can see, okay, how'd that predator decide to select you? Right? When you talk about, yeah, Philip, I was mugged here, or this happened. I like to really think back and go, and if we could back up and say, okay, they saw you, they decided to approach you, and then they had to close the distance. And what made them do that? And had you seen them ahead of time, that is what the whole thing of what can we learn from nature about how predators select prey. And if you take away their element of surprise, they might go to somebody else. They don't want to get the drop on you. And so that is what the flashlight and the essence of scenario training is to basically show you concepts, see how you apply them, and then we make adjustments based on how you apply them. And when you get good, we just crank it up a little bit more, and we crank it up a little bit more. And that's the fun stuff, team building. I can't stress that enough. Let's say you're doing a mastermind event and you want to bring in, some of your elite staff or your management team. If you want to see how fast they can learn something new, you can't fake scenario training. So it's just a lot of fun, and it's something that, again, coming back to a flashlight, it's non-lethal, it's immensely practical, and it can be basically anywhere. It can go anywhere. It can be carried absolutely anywhere, all the time. So, note that those who own firearms, a flashlight goes everywhere. Everywhere a firearm can't go, on a plane, on a train, in a church, or in a bar, you can always carry it near or far. It's our Dr. Seuss reference for the day.
That's pretty good. And you know what else is, again, guys, the hope is that you don't get in these scenarios, but to the flashlight, not only is the light really strong, but you can use it as essentially a weapon. And I want you to describe it maybe a little bit, Philip, because one of the lasting things that I heard, and maybe I'm paraphrasing here, but stay in the fight was kind of what stayed in my head. Like, and I think back to, again, I'll give the 2 times that I definitely put myself in bad scenarios. Okay. Warsaw, Poland. I'm walking alone down a very, very dark alley. I can't see. They came to me. There was 6 of them, I believe. And they were very friendly. And so I engaged in conversation. Next thing you know, boom, I am getting beat up. And they stole the $12 that I had on me. Cool, not a big deal. At the end of the day, I got beat up a little bit. Mexico, the difference was it was dark, but I had an escape to the beach. So they grabbed me, but yet I was able to run into the ocean. And I think what the point here is I had an escape. I was not fighting back because I was going to lose. There was 3 guys in Mexico. They stole my watch. Okay, fine. That's replaceable. But I stayed in the fight. I ran away and I got big and loud, right? The flashlight I thought this was so, because I would never think about this, but just the way you've engineered it, that it's just long enough that it sticks outside. If you can see my hand, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, that it actually sticks out and you can hit them with the back of your fist. It hurts, guys. Like, I was messing with it on my leg. Imagine you being able to do that to someone's head. Obviously you did that by design. Talk to the audience just a little bit more, because I think if nothing else, people go get this amazing flashlight. It's really, really good. It's super compact, and it can get you out of some bad spots.
Yeah, no, a flashlight, again, is something it's small, it's inconspicuous, but it can also be a force multiplier. It can be a roll of quarters. I'm dating myself there, right? It can be a roll of quarters where people talk about, I ask this question at classes, have you ever had any boxing, MMA? Have you ever done any striking? And most people go, no. And I said, well, have you ever hammered a nail? And they go, yes, most everyone has. And it's like, well, if you can hammer a nail with a hammer, you can defend yourself with a flashlight, because we're not overextending. We're not punching. We're basically, I'm Super Mario Brother here. We're hammer fisting. And it's something that we teach you. So, for example, the class that you guys came to, we'll have, before lunch, we'll show you distance is our friend. And if distance breaks down, then when we have, when you and Miss Lisa return, you guys are always invited, and, bring everyone you care about. We can then show you, when distance breaks down, another cliff note version, if you will, of you can use that flashlight as a striking tool, and not to fight, but just to strike to get distance. And so that the flashlight, again, it's very special. It's programmed for self-defense. And it's something that I could not find with other manufacturers, because if you think about flashlights, okay, flashlights are made for military or law enforcement because they order 30,000 of them at a time. So you're not going to get a self-defense flashlight. You're going to get some cheap knockoff where they advertise, this was made by a Navy SEAL and it's got this and it's got all these, and it's like, we want to oversimplify it so that you can't adjust the beam. You can't adjust it by clicking it 3 times. We want to make it oversimplistic because you have fine motor skill and gross motor skill. When you get attacked, like unfortunately, like you just referenced 2 of those times, there were multiple assailants, and it's one of those things where you're not going to have any dexterity or fine motor skills. You're going to get that fight or flight moment. So our flashlight is just large enough that it will still fit in your pocket, but it's not too small so you can strike someone with it and not crimp your hand. And that's the thing where I geek out about flashlight safety, because again, this is what I do now for the last 15 years. And we're very good at this. And we are the subject matter experts, that we are the white label. Pretty much everyone who's anyone that writes for a self-defense magazine or what have you has visited us. And when you see anything about flashlights out there, most of the time, that's because it's come because we've trained someone and they're the editor for this magazine or that magazine. And they come to WAFD because, again, we're the place you go to learn things that you never want to fail at.
Yeah. And again, whatever the correct terminology, please use it, but staying in the fight. So guys and gals listening, if you were to get attacked, one of the, again, lasting memories is you make it as hard as can be, not to beat them up, but as you said, to get distance. The flashlight shining in, whether it's in their eyes or on the ground, just making it big, is to create this distance. And I thought about that as you guys would do these scenarios where you would grab someone, and I remember you just saying, stay. I feel like that it was stay in the fight, or am I coming up with the wrong one?
No, you're absolutely correct. Statistically, when someone is attacked, if they don't give up and they fight back, most of the time predators don't want to get hurt. So if someone attacks you, as long as you fight back, it makes them rethink about what they're doing because they don't want to get hurt. And if you have a tool, a force multiplier, that can magnify even if you don't have, because you think about the predator gets to select where and when and how. You're going to get it, when you were attacked, those 6 guys that were being very nice to you, their adrenaline was at peak because they knew that was getting ready to happen and you didn't. And so they caught you by surprise. And so that's the thing where you stay in the fight. And that's what we talk about with people where, for example, when you're going through scenario training, a lot of times people go, oh, you got me. You turn around and someone's there and it's like, oh yeah, good one. You got me. You snuck up. And it's like, no, you stay in the fight until we call it, until we call the scenario, because that could be a potential training scar. That's the difference between training to be in a game and training to be in practice, right? Think about in sports. Someone's a basketball player and they're shooting free throws and they're in a quiet gym and they're there first and they're not tired. They're not sweaty. They're not exhausted. It's not, they're down by 1 and they got to hit 2 free throws. And you can't even hear yourself think because how loud the auditorium is. That's what we try to do, is we try to replicate a scenario where, with enough instructors, right, we put you in a situation so that you can't game it. And that's where the real learning happens, because in scenarios, everybody's different. Everybody reacts differently. And you could put 100 people in the same scenario and they will react 100 different ways with 100 different variations. And so to help each and every individual learn and train using safety concepts and how we teach people to interpret them, that's how they become their best possible selves, is by organically applying safety concepts when they don't know what's going to happen, and we see what you're going to do naturally. Then we make adjustments based on what you already do, and that is part of the magic of what we do at WAFD, is we don't tell you what to do. We see what you're going to do naturally, and then we make adjustments so the retention is there, And again, it's life changing. There's a lot of stuff coming out now with virtual reality. We're starting to dip into that just a little bit, but make no mistake, there is no substitute for a live, in-person, custom learning experience. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and you know what? I hope people can understand. I remember, I think we had between about 8 years old as the youngest, up to I don't know their exact age, but I recall the couple that probably is in their late 70s. And the gentleman was even in a wheelchair that they were doing a lot of this. And my point to that is, it truly is a welcoming atmosphere where, yes, you are working with people that literally are protecting our country and at the highest levels, guys. Those are the instructors that Philip has brought on. And yet, at no time did it feel like it was this crazy testosterone filled, like, my wife, you guys know Lise, she's a little Asian gal. Like, she felt totally comfortable, and the 8-year-old was crushing it just like the 80-year-old was. And I just, it's so unique, Philip, that you have been able to curate this thing that is applicable in the real world. And yet it's fun, guys. I got to tell you, I learned a lot, but I had a hell of a lot of fun doing it. So I hope I described it well enough, because I really want people to go check this out. What didn't I know enough to ask you, brother? That, because I could talk about my experiences all day long with you, but what didn't I know enough to ask you about what WAFD is doing, about the facilities, maybe about what you have coming up? Anything I missed that you want to make sure to share with the audience?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity, to share what I believe is important information, not only to our community here in Central Florida, but also the community at large, the United States, and really the world. And it's one of those things that with your valuable time, we want to have a family learning experience, a vacation, something that you guys can go. And I recommend at least once a year, if not twice a year, something to go to refresh, because things are changing and evolving every day. And I want safety for my family when I'm not with them. So that's why WAFD exists. We're unapologetically aggressive when it comes to just, with your valuable time, catering to you and providing a really fun learning experience that really no one else is doing it. They advertise that they are. There's a lot of people out there like, oh, come to here and we do this. And I hear it all the time for, oh, do you have some place like this in Tennessee? Or do you have some place like this in California? Or no, I've got so-and-so down the street and this guy is all dialed in. There is no competition with a multi-million-dollar facility with all the gear and the equipment, and then the student to instructor ratio, and then focusing on what's more likely to happen. So that's what makes us different. And you touched on it. We're families, and we're fathers, and we're husbands. And we want to teach you what to do and how to think, and then the legality of that, because you have a lot to lose. So if you're attacked by someone and you defend yourself, you can still get sued. So it's a full spectrum experience that we really want to make you a better version of yourself. And our goal is, when you come, when you leave that day, you're a better version of yourself when you came. And the more time you give us, the better we make you. And no one else is doing this, and nothing else is like it.
Well, guys, you heard him say the words valuable time several times on this episode. I promise you, he must have said it several hundred times. He really, truly values not only your time, but your presence. It's a really unique experience. So if people are listening, and of course we'll have it in the show notes, but they want to go check out what you're doing, Philip, they want to see, like, okay, cool, JM, you described it, but I want to see it. Where's the best place for them to check it out, brother?
So we have a very easy website called WAFD.com, WOFT.com, just 4 letters. It's very easy. And we'll be rolling out a new website actually this week. And we're just always improving. And we feel very blessed, and very blessed to have people and grow the family. So it's something that it's my honor and privilege to bring value to you and Lisa and everyone that you care about. And that's just something where I highly recommend everyone try purpose-based learning at least once. And again, you're not going to get this anywhere else. This is something that is something that we really came up with as a father and as a husband. And with the right people around me, you can't compete with a village. It's impossible.
Well, it is a cool experience, guys. And brother, thank you for coming on, sharing, allowing Lise, myself, and Davin to come share in that incredible experience, and then to share this with our audience. Guys, I really, if you're curious, reach out to me, reach out to Philip directly, go to WAFD, check it out. I promise you, your dollar that you spend, whatever that is, because it's very custom made, you can do however much you want. It goes a long way, and you will learn a heck of a lot. So thank you, Philip. I really appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. And until next time, stay dangerous.
If this episode made you pause, if it made you think about your kids, your family, or your own awareness, then don't keep it to yourself. Share this with someone you care about, because safety is not about panic. It's about preparation, and preparation is an act of love. If you got value from this conversation, make sure you're subscribed to the Let's Go Win podcast so you never miss episodes like this. And if you believe more people need to hear this, please take 10 seconds and send it to another parent, a spouse, or a friend. That one share could matter more than you realize. Until next time, stay aware, stay prepared, and as always, let's go win.